The Odyssey, starring a lot of really good actors and actresses from Hollywood. It's like they reached into Hollywood and they grabbed an assortment and they just sprinkled them onto the movie. Matt Damon comes in, and to be honest, one of the reasons I didn't think the movie would be good going in, I did not see Matt Damon doing this role justice. But surprisingly, I was incorrect. Robert Pattinson, he always brings it. He's always good. I expected him to be good. Corey Hawkins, he's solid. You know, if you've got a job to do, there's certain people that work under you at McDonald's, at the construction company, at the lawyers, at the bank. There's certain people that work up under you that you know will give you a solid day's work. Corey Hawkins is one of those guys. If he's in the show, he's going to do the job. Everything that needs to be done, he's going to do. John Leguizamo, when I heard he was in the movie, immediately, I mean, he's got a large body of work. He's done a lot of things. But when I saw this, immediately my mind went to the first time I can remember seeing him in a movie called The Pest, where he was kind of like the Latin Jim Carrey. He was full of energy and he was bouncing around, and he was John Leguizamo, Jim Carreying it up. And when they said he was in the movie, I was like, oh, somebody gonna get hit in the face with a pie? I couldn't see him doing a serious role, but to be honest, he was one of the better actors in this movie. It was almost like he was like, okay, I'm done with that comedy stuff. Let me show you what else I can do. And he brought it. He was just about incredible in this movie. Charlie Theron was in it. Zendaya, who at first, as soon as I saw her, the very first time I saw her, I didn't realize that she was a goddess visiting Odysseus and nobody else could see him. I thought he was high or something, but that wasn't in the original text. She was, I believe, Athena, and she kept visiting him, giving him counsel. And that was cool. That was cool. John Bernthal is in this movie, and he was good too. Will Yun Lee was in this movie. You'll probably see him and you'll recognize him, but where's that guy from? He was Carigi in the Wolverine movie. He was the guy with the bow and arrow on the roof. He was good in this also. Lupita Nyong'o was in this movie, and as always, she's an incredible actress, and she was incredibly fine. She brought both of those things, and you couldn't help see one and the other at the same time. Surprisingly, James Remire was in this movie. I didn't know he was going to be in it at all. But he's been sneaking into a lot of really good movies lately. You know, you don't expect him, and then all of a sudden, bam, he's in this movie too. He was in this movie. This movie was directed by Christopher Nolan, who brought us stuff like Interstellar, Dunkirk, Oppenheimer, Zack Snyder's Justice League. He's another guy that you could say is almost always on point. If you get Christopher Nolan to do your movie, then you have just got somebody to do your movie. And it was almost like two guys were sitting there and they was like, you know what, I don't ever think I've ever seen a good version of the Odyssey. And he was like, hold my beer. And he brought it. It was good. Damon, in this movie, you could tell he took it seriously, because not only was his acting on point, and when I thought about him, the first thing I thought about was him playing Loki in the Thor movie, laying on the ground. You know, make sure they have my hat, the one with the horns, the curly horns. And I was like, Odysseus, maybe not, but he brought it. He brought the acting, and you could tell he was serious about it because that dude got in shape. And I'm not talking about Jason Bourne in shape. I'm talking, Marvel Batman or DC Batman, Marvel Captain America shape. He looked like he could legit fight in the Trojan War. He was ripped, he was muscular, he had the six pack, he put the work in. And when you're worth millions and millions and millions of dollars, and they tell you your movie starts in 3 months or whatever, you can get the best people to come in there and whip you into shape. And that may have been what happened, or he might have just went out into his garage and did it himself. I don't know, but either way, it worked. That dude was in shape, and they knew it. So there's more than one scene where he's got no shirt on, and he's like, hey, look at what I did. So he was in shape. He took it very seriously. In fact, all of the actors took it seriously. Every single one of them, Hawkins, Damon, Leguizamo, all of them were so committed. They seemed like they was, and I don't know if Nolan just pulls that out of actors, or if they showed up and they were just like, it's the Odyssey, man, we got to do it. I don't know what caused it, but, and not saying that they're not normally good actors. Every single body in this movie was a great actor. Opie from Sons of Anarchy was in this movie. Everybody was in this movie. They brought it. And to be honest, and no knock on Miss Hathaway, but most of the actors, I expected her to bring it, but most of the actors were so good in this movie that I was looking at Anne Hathaway and I was like, that's all you got? Not that she wasn't bringing it, because she was. She's a good actress. But everybody else was so surprisingly good that you look at the one that you expect to be good, and I just expected her to be better. I expected her to sit next to me in the theater with a bag of popcorn and be like, you dig this? This is more than 3D. This is Anne Hathaway vision. I expected her to just boom out of the screen. But everybody was good. This was a really, really good movie, especially for so many people who are known for doing comedic roles or have done comedic roles. Wow. I enjoyed this movie, man. So the movie introduces us to Odysseus directly after the Trojan War. And it was, you know the story. You probably have seen the movie Troy, or if you haven't read the Odyssey or whatever. It is the unstoppable army versus the unbreachable war. It is immovable object versus the irresistible force. That's essentially what this movie is about. Now, the Odyssey has a lot of stories in it. It's not just, they went to war, they fought, and they went home. It's not just that. In the initial text, especially the American version, the English version, there's a lot of different stories in there. Achilles, I don't even think he was even mentioned in this movie, and that's a whole thing. They made a whole movie with Brad Pitt just about that one part. So there's a whole lot of stuff that was happening. This touches on Odysseus and his journey and his part in the war. Something that happened that I enjoyed, but I think they missed an opportunity. The only real opportunity that they missed, when Odysseus and his men come across the Cyclops. And it's a famous thing. I'm not spoiling anything. It's been in the book for a long time. They poke the Cyclops' eye out with a sharpened stick. In the story I read, the Cyclops says, he asks, who are you? And Odysseus doesn't want to give him his name because he doesn't want him telling his big bad dad, Poseidon. So he's like, nobody. I'm nobody. So in the story, there were, I want to say there were three or there were five Cyclops in total, and the other ones came to him. They're like, brother, what's going on? And he's like, nobody has poked my eye out. Nobody. Because he wanted the name so he could get revenge. Odysseus lied to him because he didn't want him to have his name. And they missed that part. I was just, when they went into the cave, I was like, oh, they're in trouble now. And they went into the cave, I was like, okay, they're in a cave. Here comes, like, for me, one of the most memorable parts of the book. You know, nobody has poked my eye out. They skipped that. That was not in it. There was only one Cyclops, and he didn't say the line. You know, it'd be like going to a Batman movie and he doesn't say, I'm Batman. Or going to an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie and he doesn't say, I'll be back. I was waiting for this one punchline. And as a little kid reading this book, it was really my first punchline in my life. I was a little kid. I read the book. It was before, you know, did I do that or any other punchline? Hey, the Fonz. It was before all of that. And they didn't say it. And I guess, you know, Nolan figured, well, we don't need it. And to be honest, he didn't need it because it was still a good thing. And it happened in my head when all of this stuff was happening on TV. So I still got it, sort of. There are two witches in this story. But you don't really know that just by, if you haven't read the story or the poem or, you know, any of the versions or seen any other movie of it, you would not know that there are two witches in here. They introduce them, but they don't tell you they're witches. Well, one of them they do. There's Circe and Calypso. Circe is clearly a witch. And in the stories, she turns Odysseus's men into pigs because she's like, you bunch of pigs, you men, you pigs. And when I read it, I just saw her doing like I Dream of Jeannie, boink, and they were pigs. In this movie, they get extremely, I don't want to say graphic, but graphic is probably the word. They show exactly how she does it, and she's like grabbing their face and ripping hair off of their face, and you know, pig skin shows up. She sticks her hand in a dude's mouth and she's pulling his mouth, and it elongates into like a pig snout. And the way she transforms, first it looked like it would have taken a long time to do all of those, and all of those dudes just standing there while she's yanking and pulling on somebody's face. But the transformation was really good. I enjoyed that transformation in the show of her power. Now, Circe is supposed to be a powerful witch, and she was, but I think the book portrayed her as more powerful than the movie portrayed her, but it still gave the same message. Then Calypso is another powerful sorceress. She's actually a non-human magical entity. She's a nymph, and she heals Odysseus, and she falls in love with him, and she keeps him. She's like, no, this is mine now, and she keeps him. And she keeps him on her island with her for 7 years. And they just make it seem like, you know, it's Charlie Theron. They make it seem like she's hot, she's sexy, she's feeding him these little leaves of this flower, and it's keeping him doped up, and he just can't leave. He's a little high, and she's hot, and he doesn't have a clear memory of what's going on, so he just stayed there with her, you know, in like a blind haze. But in the book, she used magic, and she's a nymph, a magical entity. And they didn't really portray that. And again, it was different. Artistic license. It was cool. It was different, and it was okay. You can't really look at a Christopher Nolan movie, see things that you did not dig, and really complain about them. I mean, it's Christopher Nolan. It's like complaining that Michael Jordan scored 112 points instead of 114 because you saw that he could have made another point. Who are you? That's Michael Jordan, baby. Shut up. You know, watching Mike Tyson fight, saying he knocked that dude out in 96 seconds. He should have did it in 80. Dude had his arms down. You don't know that. You wasn't in the ring. So I'm saying this about the Christopher Nolan movie, but at the same time, I realize I am not Christopher Nolan, and if he did it, he probably had a dozen reasons to do, to go left when I was thinking right or whatever. But still, I did look for that. And again, the entire story is about his journey home, Odysseus' journey home, and all of the tribulations that he goes through. He lands on islands, and there are things on the island. The true story to me, growing up and everything, was that Zeus and Poseidon had their own agenda for Odysseus. Poseidon wanted that dude, wanted him done. But Zeus, a bigger, stronger, badder, more powerful god, was like, nah. So every time Poseidon would do a thing, Zeus would allow a little punishment. You're my brother. I know you need this. I'll let you whip on him a little bit, but you shall not kill him. And that, to me, these guys, Odysseus and his men, were caught in between these two guys. They even mentioned that, oh my gosh, this dude, I won't say who yet because you haven't seen the movie, this dude is talking to Poseidon, we're in trouble now, he's telling us what's going on. That happened. They knew that Poseidon wanted them, done. They also knew that they were under the protection of Zeus. So if a really tough guy in your neighborhood wants you hurt, and a equally or more tough guy says don't do it, you're still in danger, because if that one guy catches you by yourself, he may just, give you that work. Who knows? And just deal with his consequences later. So they were in that kind of a situation, and to me, that's the biggest, growing up, not at the movie, growing up, that was the biggest portrayal of this movie, that they were caught in between the fury of two gods. It was a good movie. It was a good movie. He, of course, you read the story. He, of course, makes it home. Somebody's got to try to string his bow. It plays out pretty much like the story, with a little bit of artistic license here and there, and little twists and turns, but it was great. It was great. A friend of mine contacted me and said, hey man, I don't think it's going to be good because Elliot Page is playing Achilles. I don't know where that statement came from. I don't know where that thought came from. I don't know where that particular knowledge came from. And I don't know where that anger at Elliot Page came from, but he hit me with it, and I was like, dude, it's a movie. Just enjoy the movie, man. And Elliot Page did not even play Achilles. It was a different person altogether. I say that because I'm thinking of one person, but about 5 people contacted me and said they had hate about that and about the different nationalities portrayed in the movie, but that would have been how it would have been. I mean, if they made a movie about today in America, they'd have different nationalities if they were portraying it correctly. So anyway, I like this movie. In fact, I liked this movie, The Odyssey, so much that I would give it, I almost never do this, 10 bags of popcorn. 10 bags of popcorn. Because that's what I think about that. More importantly, what do you think about that? Have you seen it yet? Let's talk about it in the comments. And as always, if you like the video, if you like the content, subscribe. And then like.
Be super. Like, share, and subscribe.